Right. Okay, so we are on with Melanie. Melanie is the founder of Altitude Athletic Training, which is a luxury facility, training facility located in downtown Toronto, and lots of interesting things happening there, which we'll get into. Melanie, thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on, Reza. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm excited to tell you a bit more about Altitude and to have a great chat today.
For sure. So I am excited to, know more about you and your background as well before diving into altitude training as well. So can you give us a brief introduction?
Yes, absolutely. So I graduated from the University of Toronto with a bachelor's degree in materials science and engineering. And I believe that you as well did an engineering degree at U of T.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Yeah. I actually remember seeing you around the campus a couple times.
Really?
I do, yeah.
Oh, so you were like kind of in the same vicinity, same year as me. When did you start? When did you graduate?
I graduated 2017.
Okay, I see. Well, I graduated 2018, but that's because I had PEY. Otherwise, I was like 1T7 as well.
Yeah, I didn't do the PEY.
Okay, so then we were exactly in the same year. Okay,
We
cool.
were, yeah. So yeah, I thought it was very awesome that you reached out.
Yeah, I remember our materials engineering professor was Dave Ramsey or something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, Dave Ramsey. Really, really
yeah,
cool guy. He was super passionate about what he did. He made the classes interesting.
yeah. It was a good time. And yeah, that was my degree. So as soon as I graduated from materials engineering, I couldn't find any any engineering jobs that sparked my interest. And I kind of decided I wanted to do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I had spent most of my university career in the gym. It's my passion. Fitness is my passion, and a bit of a meathead. So as soon as I graduated and I couldn't find anything of interest, I stuck to my passion, and I'm like, I'm going to open a gym. I'm going to do this. So I started to get some certifications. I got my personal training certification, group fitness instructor, that whole thing. I also got jobs in the fitness industry. So little jobs here and there. Like I worked as a trainer, I worked in a juice bar making smoothies, just trying to get to know the industry. And it's a tough industry, and coming from a place like engineering, or studying engineering, where you're kind of being prepped for a very corporate, in most cases, or a technical role to go and then transitioning and learning about an industry that is a lot more, let's say, people oriented, and lots of marketing involved, it's very trendy, right? There's lots of fads and trends and personalities. So I needed to learn that industry, but I also wanted to approach it from my engineering side and see if I can understand, the processes and the systems of what works in a gym. So as soon as I graduated, I spent about 1 to 2 years learning about the fitness industry, and just practically applying myself to it. Once I felt that I was ready, I stopped all jobs and focused entirely on building my own gym and creating my own business.
That's amazing. And was it I know you said that getting into the fitness industry was, kind of tough, but was it a tough transition for you, kind of moving from engineering into a fitness industry as well?
It was, for sure. There's a lot of fear, right? With engineering, in most cases, you've got a good job ahead of you. There's a lot of engineering jobs. There's demand for engineers. I know a lot of people in my year in materials engineering were able to go into finance or other fields. It's just applicable. People are hiring engineers. But in the fitness industry, I mean, there's a lot of competition. there's no guarantee, and there's just a lot of gyms. So there's no certainty that you'll find a place for yourself there. So you had to go into it pretty brave and ready to tackle it.
Yeah, and was there, moments where you were like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I just want to go back to my own regular kind of job, my background, whatever, which is materials engineering. Did that ever occur to you throughout the process of setting this up?
Absolutely. And one thing I did do and had planned as a fallback doing engineering, my version of a PEY was about 6 months in Italy. I worked for a yacht designer, which was an incredible experience.
That is fun. A yacht design in Italy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a company that designed super yachts.
Wow.
And it was crazy. In Florence, Italy, it was an absolutely incredible experience. And my job there was to do the AutoCAD drawings for the yachts. And it's incredible what they had in those yachts. But anyway, that was kind of my fallback. I'm like, hey, if this doesn't work out, maybe they'll take me and I'll just, get fluent in Italian and hope for the best.
Hey, the fallback plan is almost as good as the original plan, in this case.
Yeah, for sure. But it's funny because even when I was working for that yacht designer, one of my jobs was to actually design the gyms inside the yachts. So to build the layout, to pick the equipment, and I was just very good at that. So that was what they kept sending me all the gyms. And that was one of the first instances where I'm like, maybe I should do this.
Yeah, 100%. And so you guys have been open for what, 2-3 years? How long has it been?
So it's been interesting because we had a very long construction period, and I'd be happy to tell you about that. That was crazy. But as soon as we were done construction, we were ready to open March 2020. And March 2020 is right when the pandemic hit and gyms were forced to close. So, we had been building up, getting ready, and then all of a sudden it's like, never mind, let's not open. So then between March 2020 and about July 2021, when gyms were able to reopen properly, we just laid low and we made a bunch of improvements to the gym during that time. And we built a whole, catalog of altitude training research. But, we've officially been open as of July 2021.
Okay, that's nice, beautiful. And you said the construction process was crazy. Is there like a specific reason for that?
Yeah, you're building the largest fully sealed hypoxic chamber in the world.
Sorry, what do you mean by hypoxic chamber?
Yeah, so what we do in our gym is we have about 1,200 square foot room. And hypoxic means reduced oxygen. So we reduce the concentration of oxygen in the air inside our room. At sea level, so where I am now in my condo, you're at 20 point, and where you're at 20.9% oxygen level. Okay, that's ambient conditions. The rest is about, it's about 78% nitrogen and another percent of just other gases. When we build a hypoxic chamber, we reduce that 20.9% oxygen. We bring it down. So we reduce it to say around 15% oxygen. In our room, we can go as low as 13.5%. When you do that, when you bring the oxygen level down, you start simulating high elevations. And that's, you're simulating the thinner air that you experience in the mountains. And that's what creates the hypoxic training benefit for our clients.
Interesting. Okay, hence why it is called altitude training.
Exactly. Yeah, you're training on a mountain in the middle of downtown Toronto.
Right. So that, in turn, increases your endurance and your stamina and your lung capacity to take in oxygen, right?
Yeah, you got it. And if you are not an endurance athlete, of course, everyone could use more endurance, but say you just want to lose some weight that you've gained during COVID, this will help you do it faster because it's an enhancement, an added resistance in the air, right? So you're burning more calories in less time.
Yeah. So when people are working out at your facility, are they also working out in that hypoxic chamber, or is that a specific kind of room or area within the gym that replicates this scenario?
So the whole gym is at altitude, not the bathrooms, reception area, that's separate.
Yeah.
But the gym, the training part of our facility is all at elevation. And inside that room, we've got treadmills, bikes, weights, a squat rack, like everything you'd find in a luxury gym, except the air is different.
I see. Interesting. And how do you do that, by the way? Like, how do you replicate that technically, that condition or climate?
Yeah, so what we do is we take ambient air and we compress it. So we've got two big heavy duty compressors. Then we pass that compressed air through what's called a nitrogen membrane hypoxicator. So it's a membrane that can filter out nitrogen and oxygen. We tell through computer controlled manipulation, we tell, the system, we want you to be at 15% oxygen level, and it will separate the gases out accordingly. And then we've got, a mix of nitrogen rich air and oxygen rich air. The oxygen rich air we send outside as waste, and the nitrogen rich air gets bled into the room.
Okay.
Which is why it needs to be fully sealed and airtight.
Interesting. Okay. And I assume for athletes, let's say, like I do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, right? So you think that would be useful for like someone like me as well?
Absolutely. You need cardio. You need, when you I guess it's called a tackle with somebody.
Yeah,
A roll. Okay. You can't get tired. You got to be able to bounce back fast.
For sure.
So, you can recover quicker, and that's what altitude training does. It improves kind of your ability to recover.
Okay, interesting. And what does the future for altitude training look like? Are you planning on like building other branches, or is this just the altitude training and that's it?
It's absolutely a goal to build other ones. But luck is not on our side. We've got to deal with COVID, and COVID just shut us for 21 days again. So as soon as we can kind of get this one in a more steady experience, and as soon as we've got the ability to stay open for longer without things like the pandemic, then absolutely.
Yeah, it's almost like starting up a business, but back in 2008 when it was the financial crisis. But in this case for gyms, it's kind of like the same, because they keep closing down the gyms, and I'm not really sure why. One of my friends told me it's because people have New Year's resolutions, and there's going to be a surge of people rushing to the gyms, especially in the beginning of January. So it makes sense to kind of close it down and then maybe open back up in February.
Yeah, for sure. And because we've managed to differentiate ourselves, we're the only altitude facility publicly open to the public here. We haven't had any significant decrease in inquiries or in interest, and we've managed to have a lot of our members come in via medical exemptions or whatnot, or training exemptions. I mean, they're going off to Everest and doing massive races, they're athletes, so they are able to get exemptions. But yeah, for all gyms right now, it's challenging. Yeah,
I am curious to know as well, like, did you always have an entrepreneurial background, or did this just kind of happen after you graduated and you thought about starting this venture?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never really had an entrepreneurial spirit. It was more, I guess, a value. It's funny. It was a value of freedom. I really wanted freedom.
Yeah.
But And that's why I wanted to start my own business, because I didn't really want to answer to anybody. I wanted my own time. I wanted to be able to go to the gym all day. But then you start your business and you work like crazy, and you realize that it's not really freedom it's a different kind of freedom that you get. You don't really get freedom as much to have fun or do things you love. You get freedom to create and to grow something.
Yeah, and
So yeah, I
that's
don't know if that
beautiful.
makes sense.
No, that definitely makes sense. That definitely makes sense. It does tie you up a lot more than a 9 to 5 job, but to your point, you have that total mobility and freedom of thought to just express your own creativity and whatever it is that you want to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. And I also want to know, are you guys getting a lot of new customers as of lately? Because your location is downtown Toronto, right? So like it's prime location. First of all, why downtown Toronto, especially with like the crazy rates that exist? Why not like somewhere else? But then how is the customer kind of acquisition and like the marketing right now for altitude training?
Yeah, so in 2018, when we were picking locations, the goal was to be as close to our target market as possible, as any gym would want. And our target market was/is the Bay Street crowd, right? So the lawyers, the bankers, the ones who will only give, say, a 30-minute lunchtime workout and want to get the most bang for their buck.
For sure.
Because that's literally what altitude training does. It gives you the most bang for your buck. So that's why we opened right beside, like, King and Church, off of Yonge, super close to those towers, and with like a future path connection. Also, we knew that Google is actually moving in beside us, which is really exciting. And that's why we kind of shelled out the money for rent, because it's pretty crazy. But nothing goes to plan, and unfortunately, most of the towers are empty right now, and have been
hopefully
for
hopefully we'll go back again.
Yeah.
This is temporary. Obviously, like the work from home situation is going to continue, but people are going to be back on the streets again, which is nice. Now, I did hear something that caught my attention. You said most bang for your buck. So I also want to know, from like a scientific point of view, when you're training at high altitudes, like lifting weights, does that help your muscle growth kind of increase the rate of your muscle growth?
It does. So that's called hypertrophy training, right? When you're training to build muscle. And most people associate altitude training with cardio. They picture like super lean Tour de France cyclists training in the mountains. But the research in altitude training in the past decade has looked at things like muscle growth and strength training. And altitude training stimulates the hormones and the processes that cause muscle growth. So you have to follow certain protocols, and we have coaches that guide you through those. But yes, it will help you grow muscle faster and in less time than the same training at sea level.
Interesting. Okay, so I am really curious and like interested to come and check out your facilities at some point.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. How did you get into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu?
I started actually talking about PEY earlier. So I couldn't find a job back in 2016 and summer, and I didn't know what to do with my time. So I was kind of like in a dilemma. Should I, start the year and skip PEY, or should I, continue looking? And in that span of time, I found this place on Christie and Bloor. It's called Toronto BJJ. Excellent facility. And I started there.
Very cool. Have you been able to keep it up?
I haven't been to jiu-jitsu for a year and a half, or about 2 years, but my goal is to kind of keep at it, go back again. But right now I'm kind of living far away from downtown, so it's a little difficult, but soon, once I move in, I'm gonna start training again.
Awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, and I really recommend it if you're like into, working out, which you clearly are, athletic and all that. Give it a try, even if it's just for a month. I really recommend it.
Yeah, I hear it's great stress release as well.
it's great stress release. You know, you're very in the moment when you're doing it, and it's excellent because it's not only like a physical workout, it's also a mental workout, because it's like a puzzle. You're constantly trying to solve a problem that you're stuck in, and you got to be creative, you got to be patient, you got to be, you know, strategic. It's very interesting.
I love that.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, Melanie, it's been great talking to you. I know you're busy as well, so thank you for, you know, giving me your time, and yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's great talking to you as well. And yeah, drop by Altitude anytime and we'll get you in for a good workout.
Definitely, yeah. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank
Take
you.
care.